Welcome to MichMusic Talk, everybody. We are here with Greg Jasperse in Southern California in Silver Lake, which is an area of Los Angeles, actually where Greg used to live.
Just up the hill,
before he flew away to Western Michigan University last year. So in case you don't know Greg's work, which probably most of you do, but let me just underline that he's I'm going to say quintuple threat. That would be 5.
It's 5.
And that would be, he's a wonderful singer, piano player, arranger, composer, as you probably know very well, teacher, conductor, let's put together, and he's an award-winning guacamole maker, which you may not know. And I hope to get to chat about that a little more.
About my guacamole?
Yeah.
Happy to.
Would you like to start with that? Because everybody's dying to
the
know.
The only problem is that we don't have some right here in front of us, you know, like the cooking show.
And there's a kitchen right there.
There is a kitchen.
I'm sorry, I should have thought of that.
Should have brought the avocados. You know, did you say award-winning?
Uh-huh.
Because we had a competition at a music camp, and I won. I beat everybody. There were many esteemed panelists there. And clearly, you know, in the middle of Ohio at a music camp. I mean, I think that makes me an international guacamole champion. But here's my secret. I mean,
weren't you up against Kelly's Agree?
I was up against Kelly's Agree, now Kelly Hazelton, and another. Who else was in the competition? It doesn't matter because they're just I left them in my dust.
Yeah.
In my
you
guac
smoked
dust.
it.
Yeah. I believe that guacamole should be entirely fresh. Like all of the ingredients, except for the salt, are from the produce department.
Do you want to talk about music or?
I do. I mean, I love music. We can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about? You mentioned Vertical Voices. Do you want to hear about that?
VV, Vertical Voices.
Vertical Voices.
There's a lot of V's in there. Okay.
That's that. You know, I mean, is it new anymore? It feels new because we haven't spent as much time together as most groups have been together for 3 or 4 years would have. But yeah, that's the vocal quartet with Julia Dollison on top and Jennifer Barnes as alto, and then Julia's husband Carrie as tenor, and I'm singing bass.
Does Carrie have a last name or?
Carrie Marsh.
Oh, Carrie Marsh.
Some of you may have heard of him.
I may. Yeah.
He's really trying to create a presence online.
Yeah, maybe someday.
I know, maybe someday. Yeah, he's
that is a dream team of singers in a vocal group, as you all probably know. I mean, that is you know, like stunning singers, stunning musicianship. Everybody is a composer and arranger, and what a beautiful group. And you all live in different parts of the country. How did it happen?
There was a time when we all did live in California, and that was as close as we all got to being in the same city. You know, it happened when Carrie and Julia did their Maria Schneider. They did a project called Vertical Voices where they sang all of the parts of 5 Maria Schneider pieces. So their voices, multi-tracked, were the horn parts, and they recorded with Maria's rhythm section. And when they gave Jennifer and I each a copy, we just fell in love with it and just kept asking them if we could sing with them sometime. And they were starting to try to do this live, but they were kind of doing vocal jazz, Vertical Voices, karaoke, where they just pulled out the tracks that they were going to sing live. As you can imagine, that's when there are a lot of tracks. That sounds a little bit weird. And they were like, yeah, it didn't go over as well as we thought. Do you guys want to join us? And so we were both like, absolutely. And then we started to tweak those arrangements. And we don't do anything. In our first little tour, we had a little California tour, we actually did do some karaoke with just a few more tracks pulled out. So there was room for Carrie, myself, Jennifer, and Julia all to sing. Now we don't do that at all. And we're sort of distilling some of those arrangements to fit. And then we are doing all of, some more music that we've all written and arranged for the group. So that's kind of how it started. But it is, you described this dream team. And what happened for us was when we first got together to sing, we realized that we had this great shared sensibility about the musicality of it. We didn't have to talk about phrasing. We didn't have to talk about, you know, the shape of a phrase or let's crescendo here and decrescendo here. It's like we all had the same, we got the same model of ears, you know, and we're all listening the same way. And of course there's Julia, who is a really impressive lead. And
she's a goddess.
She's basically a goddess.
Among
But when she
sopranos.
sings, you know, all you want to do as a voice underneath that lead voice is sort of get in line.
Yeah,
You know,
the fall of the
absolutely,
crescendos and the-
yeah. I mean, I've been listening to Julia since we were all in college. She went to Miami, I went to Miami, and it's always been a voice that I've wanted to sing with. And she's one of those signature voices. You know, all the groups that we know, if you just dropped the needle, who drops the needle anymore? But if you just did a blindfold test, you know, the Bonnie Hermans, the Kim Nazarians, the Marguerites, and, you know, just these groups that have lead voices that, boom, you know exactly who that group is. And she's one of those voices, you know. So I just wanted to sing with her. We all wanted to sing with her.
What a
And now
fun
we get to sing with her.
experience for you and everyone. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. What are you guys working on now?
I think we're working on getting some gigs. Now we've got some things coming up again. We're going to do a New York hit, our first New York hit as a group in the spring. And it won't be long before we're working on a new CD, probably. It just takes longer with us not living in the same city to do that. I think, you know, yeah.
Do you want to tell everybody what your CD is called, the existing one?
The existing CD is called Forward, Fourward, and it's really a pretty broad collection of compositions and arrangements from all of us in the group, and a lot of it is, if you're not familiar with the group, our niche is really, I would say, non-lyric vocals that are incredibly instrumental in nature, and improvisation is a big part of the group. Combine that with a more contemporary harmonic language, and probably rhythmic feel. It's a little bit more, perhaps ECM. We've got one swing tune basically, and we all love to swing, but that's not sort of the flavor of this particular group. It's not the prevailing flavor, I would say, you know. So we do like our non-lyric, our syllabic vocal jazz. Yeah.
So I would love to know what your first year at Western Michigan University was like, because you lived in LA, you were a studio singer for a long time, and of course doing a lot of writing for educational groups and many other, you know, professional groups and so on, singing in sixth wave, singing in vertical voices, doing all this stuff. And then last year you moved away, woohoo, but good for you, and you took over a job that Steve Zagri had, and he had built, you know, a really fantastic vocal group and program there called Gold Company. And I'd like to know how what that was like for you.
Well, it's pretty surreal, you know. I mean, since I'm a graduate of that program, you know, to go back to something totally familiar. However, I'm not the same person I was when I was a student there, and everybody there, including Steve Zagri, you know, made it very clear: do your own thing, like make this your program. And it's interesting how I think, you know, there's a lot of that happening these days at North Texas and at Miami, and Long Beach, just new leadership and new direction. But to go back to a place that I was so familiar with, and then have to rethink everything, like, well, I know how this is done because I was a part of it being done that way, but I now have to think about, well, wait, is that the way that I want to do it? And does that help the direction I want the program to go in? So there was a little bit of that wrestling that I don't think, you know, I couldn't have known about until I got there. And another part too is it's such a huge tradition, and folks were so familiar with what Steve did and the traditions that he instilled there and built and maintained, that on some level I wanted to continue that, to maintain the musical excellence, the professionalism. The students are still just as wonderful and hardworking and diligent. And then there's just I call it my ILC, the institutional learning curve. Like, I've been freelance for 18 years, and so to move into a full-time position like this and have to learn how everything is done, like who's on what committee, and if I want to change this, who do I talk to, and how many hoops does that require to jump through, and I should have done that 4 weeks ago, and who's reserving the bus for this Gold Company trip, and all of it, I love learning that kind of thing. I'm really excited about this coming year now that I've been through the whole cycle once. We had Gold Company auditions, Gold Company retreat. Peter Eldridge was there as our vocal jazz artist in residence this year, and hopefully again this coming year. We opened up for the Real Group in February. We had the Gold Company Invitational with Sarah Gazarek and Josh Nelson as our guests, and organizing those things and promoting those things and getting your students ready to perform at those things. And it felt like every day was another new lesson to just add on to the one before. And on top of that, just learning about my students. The group thing is something I'm really comfortable with and really love. And the solo jazz voice teaching was something I honestly had a little bit of reluctance about, and I ended up loving it. But it does mean that I have to learn about each individual person, their musical tastes, their temperament, their work ethic, and then help them get to where they want to go. Because for me, that's entirely different than moving, an ensemble in a particular direction.
It's really a mentorship situation
Mm-hmm.
with solos.
Yeah. So it was quite a year.
That's a handful.
Yeah.
Wowie, zowie.
Yeah.
In addition to, I know I saw you here in LA, several times.
Right.
You had work here. I saw you in Vancouver once.
Mm-hmm.
You had some work there, and all the
Mm-hmm.
writing that you do, and everything, vertical voices and Oasis and all that.
All these V's, voices and Oasis.
Vertical voices, Oasis.
Right.
They might not know who Oasis is, but they will.
They will.
Soon enough.
And alliteration helps. If you just associate the letter V with all the groups that I'm in right now, it's going to be pretty helpful. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
Mental note.
But if they want to know, Oasis is an a cappella group, an 8-voice a cappella group that Deke Sharon, so many people know him as the father of a cappella.
Yes, and
he's
one of the founders of Casa, yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and he leads the
Sang-
house jacks.
Is the house jacks are still going?
They're
strong?
still going.
It's been a long time.
Of course, he works on the sing-off and works on the movies Pitch Perfect, and
Mhm.
he's a hardworking guy. He is the artistic director, and he asked me to be the music director and put together a group of 8 singers. I get to be one of them, and prepare a show for a series of concerts in Santa Fe. We're officially a part of the Santa Fe Desert Chorale, which has the classical or the chamber choir, chamber ensemble, I should say, and they decided they wanted a more popular contemporary a cappella group as well. So now we have the Santa Fe Desert Chorale has these 2 entities, the Desert Chorale and Oasis. So essentially, we're a group of LA singers and then me that rehearses here and then performs in Santa Fe. And we're working on expanding that now. We do have a date at the end of this summer in Los Angeles. So yeah, it's a brand new group. We will go out for our 2nd time in August, and it's exciting.
That's nice.
Complete range of musical styles, though, like not just vocal jazz. There's definitely a lot of jazz influence, but pop and folk and novelty numbers.
Yeah, but I was at rehearsal yesterday for a few minutes, and I heard a little bit of a Gene Perling, an old Singers Unlimited classic, Indian Summer.
I know.
This is
Finally. This is the first time I've been in a group that has enough voices to sing that chart. It's thrilling. The last page. Summer, 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 ba. Just that chord at the end, this classic purling voicings that, you know, it just makes we were in the middle of a phrase yesterday and I got all choked up just hearing it again, you know, hearing the writing.
I'm getting choked up just hearing you talk about it because I remember, you know, I can hear the sound of the music in my ear as you talk about it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And well, I actually, they graciously allowed me to shoot a few video shots over at rehearsal yesterday, so a little bit later in this interview we're going to play that so you can hear Oasis a bit.
Vo.
That's what I said. Oasis. Remember the V.
Right. The V is not silent. I know you're used to.
Greg, when we were working in Vancouver recently, in April, I think, a couple of months ago, you were conducting an honors choir there while I was doing some other adjudicating work. And then I got a chance to hear your dress rehearsal, and which was a sing-through of the whole program.
Right.
And I heard, I think, two or three of your original choral. I hate to call it choral because it reminds me of, you know, Bach or something. And maybe it's not classical per se. It's just music. I don't know that it has a category.
It's just music.
But it was, you know, especially this one piece. You probably would remember the name of it better than I would. Sorry, I forgot the name.
I think it was Light.
Light,
Right?
yeah. It was so gorgeous. I mean, it was really stunning. It just knocked me out. And I remember John Chalmers walked down the hall.
We had to call the EMTs.
We made eye contact with him, you know, and you know. So it was just beautiful. Tell us more about your writing. You know, what directions you're going.
Ugh.
I know you're ready for publication.
Yeah.
Still.
A little slow this year with the with the new job at Western. The writing had to take a bit of a back seat, but I'm hoping to get back on that horse, as it were. You know, I would love to say I have a direction I'm going in with my writing, but you know, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I kind of write what I want when I'm not writing for publication. I should say, I write what I want to write. I write what I want to hear. I write what I like to hear. But that particular piece, there was a setting for that piece. It was the opening piece for the Chicago Children's Choir 50th anniversary concert. So they're celebrating 50 years. And that piece was written, I wrote the lyrics after asking the kids, not really kids, the high school students in the Chicago Children's Choir, how they experience their mission statement. And they just brainstormed with me, and I had all of their notes. And so that's really where that text came from. But I also knew from Josephine, their artistic director, what that moment had to be. It was at the Lyric Opera House in Chicago, and she said, Greg, this is going to open the concert, and before we get into any of the bells and whistles, I want the audience to know that this group can sing. You know, so the curtain came up, and my goal was to just have this chord that just washed over the audience, and not just to make that moment impressive, but also because the kids, their spirit about the choir is what they've learned, which the mission statement essentially is educating people, not just the members of the choir, but audiences and anybody they encounter about racism and healing that and bridging that gap through musical excellence. So these kids come from all over the city of Chicago, and the prevailing thought in our brainstorming session was, once you have been made aware of that, you can't ever not be aware of it. And so I wanted to have a sound that just came over the audience, and once they heard that sound, they could never get rid of it. You can't get rid of it.
It worked for me.
Yeah.
It enveloped me. It did feel like an enveloping
so it was
blanket.
It was an amazing concert to be at when they sang it, and it was really fun to work with this choir in Canada. I really felt like they sang it really well too,
and you wrote a song about being Canadian for them.
I did write a song.
Funny,
yeah,
very cute.
Oh, thanks.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for being with us here today.
My pleasure.
I just wish you didn't move away. I wish you could be in two places at once.
I'm working at it.
You kind of almost are, because I see you here about as much as I ever saw you here.
I know.
You're on the road so much, but you seem to like California. You do back here.
Who wouldn't? It's an amazing place.
Yeah. So
for bike rides.
Yeah, it's great to see you in Kalamazoo too.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I will go
for
there
those of you that don't know, Michele came to spend Thanksgiving.
So anyway, yeah, great to have you here, and we could tell them about gregjasperse.com, of course.
We can't say that.
No, we can't
Strike
say that.
That needs to be rebuilt.
We could probably.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a disaster.
Okay.
Yeah. Do not model your professional existence after me.
We could talk about verticalvoices.com and all that. Everybody knows the websites. Is there anything they don't know? Is there a Oasis website?
Oasis has a website. It's part of the Santa Fe Desert Corral. So if they just search or Google the Santa Fe Desert Corral, you'll find a page on Oasis with all of our dates.
Okay.
And we're working at developing that even more. Gold Company pages, the New York Voices Vocal Jazz Camp. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of just,
Okay.
Spend a day just going down the Google rabbit hole.
I'm sure everyone, that's all they'd like to do is get on their computer more.
And just Google Greg Jasperse, and once you go through all of the YouTube videos of any number of voice dances, which I think you might want to have a martini before you do that or something. Anyway.
I think I'll just have one with her
Let's have it right now.
And tell you I watched the videos.
Yeah, that's good.
And by the way, we're going to show you, present that little clip from my visit to the Oasis rehearsal yesterday. So don't go away after this, but I do want to say thank you, Mr. Greg Jasperse.
It's quite a pleasure.
My pal.
Indeed.
Good friend.
Thank you.
And so we'll see you next time, everybody. MichMusic.com here at MichMusic Talk. See you later.
Take care. Yay!
Nice.
Oh, we're still on camera.
Question.
Laura.
First, you're stumbling in the
3 times you do it, you got it.
Yeah.
To build it.
Yes.